All right, so I want to give you some videos, our next step of the cell cycle. So far, we've talked about what it is and its interphase. Got interphase, I. We got mitosis, M. And then we got cytokinesis, C. Interphase is just a normal phase of the cells go through, grow, and develop. And then at the end of interphase, when they're going to go into mitosis, they then prepare for mitosis. Now, mitosis is just a dividing up of everything inside the cell so that a new cell can be created. And then cytokinesis is where the cell then divides in two. It'll end up being about half the original size. And that occurs, this process, the cell cycle occurs just because naturally we grow and develop and we need more cells, or we damage our cells, or things like that. Okay, so, but there's important things to remember about how this is all regulated. And because the fact is, cells cannot grow too slow or too fast. If one of these happens, they can form things that are called tumors. And a big part of that's connected with is cancer. Okay, and you can have really two types of cancer. One cancer is, benign and just forms a tumor and it's removed and it's fine. But then it can be malignant and it can be spread elsewhere and cause a lot of problems. Cancer generally are caused by carcinogens, and these are all kinds of different materials and also other things that living things are exposed to that cause mutations in your DNA. So these can be chemicals. Write this in. So chemicals. Okay. You can think of asbestos. They used to put it in a lot of schools for heating and air conditioning to around the ducts to keep them insulated. If you smoke, people inhale the smoke from cigarettes and other things that causes cancer. It's just exposing the body to different things that causes mutations in the cells, and wherever that stuff's ingested, it then causes problems. So if you're a smoker and you've ingested that smoke into your lungs over many, many years, it can affect your lung cells and cause lung cancer. And then that, depending on where you get cancer, it can then spread to somewhere else. Okay, so carcinogens, lots of different things are carcinogens. But again, they cause mutations in the DNA, which is just your universal genetic code. And then they cause things to happen in the cell cycle that make it go the wrong direction, forming tumors. The most common cause of cancer is UV light. So you go out in the sun. A lot of people like to get a tan, and that's great. But if you stay out too long, depending on your skin type and those kind of things, it can cause skin cancer. And usually it's this thing called basal cell carcinoma. And that's not too bad. You get a cell and you just have to have it removed. A lot of people get them on their face or wherever they get the most sun and sunburn, especially if you've been sunburned, you've definitely may have caused damage, but not necessarily. So UV light's the most common carcinogen that causes cancer. Another one is really heredity, and that's really not a carcinogen, but it's just your general makeup. So breast cancer is one that's you can get it from one of your parents, and then and that can be very serious. So they now have tests develop that can help check for those before they even start. So this is from your parents, grandparents, wherever it comes from, and this is just something that's already in your DNA, and you inherit it. And then lifestyle. So it's kind of how you live your life. So if people smoke cigarettes, they eat the wrong kind of food with lots of preservatives in it, and so on and so forth. The places you hang out, the job you have. So if you're around materials that are carcinogens and you're exposed to them a lot, maybe you don't have a lot of people in Alaska don't have a well, so they have to keep their water, conserve it. And so they don't shower every day. Maybe if you're around these chemicals and you're not showering as much as you should, they're on your body, on your skin, and they can cause cancer as well. So lots of different things. So you have carcinogens cause cancer, chemicals, and other things like UV light. And then hereditary, you could just automatically you receive your DNA from your two parents, and then you inherit this thing, and then this defect or something wrong in your DNA, and that can cause cancer. But also lifestyle, so how you live your life, how you eat, your job, those kind of things. And these all tie into the idea that the cell cycle is regulated by proteins. So we have those macromolecules: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Well, one of the proteins is cyclin, and that's a protein that slows down or speeds up the cell cycle. And it can be inside the cell, internal, or it can be seeing what's going on outside the cell, external. Okay, so internal, they're just reading the chemicals in there, and the cell itself is seeing what's happening inside the cell and predicting whether a new cell needs to be made, or senses damage in the cell, so it then the cell dies and then it's ready to be recreated. So it's looking at conditions inside the cell to see whether a new cell needs to be made. Okay, and then also externally, so if a cell dies next to the cell or something like that, then the cell can sense what's going on around it through these proteins and these chemicals that pass in between the cell membrane, and can say, hey, we need a cell. Let's go make another cell. So these are kind of the important thing. We're going to learn a little bit more about this. You're going to watch some videos and so on, and learn more about this cell cycle regulation. There's something called the cell cycle clock. It knows when to start creating cells, when to stop, how fast to go. And if any of those things get messed up, it starts creating too many cells, and then that forms a tumor. And but that's kind of introduction to this regulating the cell cycle. You're now going to watch some videos attached to a worksheet called Understanding Cancer. And the first one you're going to look, I'm not going to share the news alert video from cancer and chemical poisons, but just remember the factor proposed to cause cancer here are carcinogens, chemicals like asbestos, or things you inhale through cigarettes, things you may work around, dangerous chemicals that are in the air that you breathe in, and so on. And in the evidence for that is just you see people that are doing those things, smoking and working in toxic environments, they tend to have a higher rate of cancer. And then just watch the rest of the videos, fill in the worksheet, and then there's a few animations that go with it. Just go ahead and work through that, but you should have just basic understanding of this. It's regulated by protein, something called cyclin. You'll learn even more about these internal and external regulators by watching the videos. So go ahead and annotate these a little bit. You may want to keep these out when you're watching the videos, and you can add to them then as well.